Hello students, welcome to Epitome IAS. This is Mansoor. So as a part of Ncert series, so far we have finished class 6, class 7, class 8, and in today's class we are going to see class 9, and in previous class already we have finished chapter 1 from class 9th Ncert. So in today's class we will be starting chapter 2 from class 9th Ncert. And if you see this chapter talks about physical features that were present in India, right? So you know that we are not going to see the line by line content which was given in NCERT, but we are not going to leave any important concepts that were given in NCERT as well. So we will be dealing, or we will be completing this NCERT series using the key terms which were given in this particular NCERTs, right? So if you see this particular chapter, in this particular chapter we are going to see the physical features that were present in India. Now if you see these physical features, what is the source or how these physical features were formed? These physical features were formed because of geological process, right? And these physical features which were present in India, these physical features were formed due to geological processes. But the point is, this geological process was not finished in 1 year, right? So it took almost millions of years. It took almost millions of years to form these geological features that were present in India, right? So if you go back to 250 million years, right? So we know that during the formation of these mountains or these continents, so in continental drift theory we understood that in olden days or before 250 million years ago, there was only one singular landmass, right? And there is water covered around that singular landmass, and we call that particular landmass as Pangaea, and the water which is surrounded around that singular landmass, we call that as an Panthalassa, right? Now the point is, over a period of time, this Pangaea was even divided into two landmasses, right? So one is Laurasia, second one is Gondwana. Now, after certain years, right, during during these formation, and after the formation of these Laurasia and Gondwana, even this Gondwana was divided into different continents. So if you see the present day South African continent, or the entire African continent, and the South American continent, and Indian plate or Indian continent, and if you see the Australian continent and Antarctica continent, or if you talk in terms of plate, this South American plate and African plate, Indian plate, Antarctica plate, and Australian plate. All these plates were formed from this Gondwana main land form, right? So the point here is, since then there are certain features or there are certain geological processes that were going on these different plates, right? So as a result of these geological processes over millions of years of time, now we can see the formations of these physical features on India, right? Now we will be seeing what are the different types of physical features that India is having right now. If you see the physical features, we can divide, or we can say that in India we have Himalayan mountains, and second we have northern plains, and third we have peninsular plateau, and we have Indian desert, that is Thar desert, and fifth type of a physical feature which we are having is coastal plains, and sixth type of physical feature that we have is islands, right? So these are the 6 physical features that we are having in present day India. Now if you see these physical features, these physical features are important to us in terms of climate, right, in terms of vegetation and in terms of economical activities, right. So we know that these features were responsible for climatic conditions that were present in India, and these physical features are economically very important to us, and these physical features provide us different types of vegetations. Now the point here is not only these three things. So we will be having the influence of these physical features is also seen in the culture. It is also seen in the history of India, right. So we have to see, or the perspective of seeing these physical features, we should not limit only to the climatic importance or the vegetational importance or the economic importance. We should consider these physical features are important in terms of culture, in terms of history of India, right. So in these physical features, so we will be discussing one by one. So now we will be saying regarding these Himalayan mountains. Now if you see these Himalayan mountains are present to the north side of India, right. So if you see this particular picture, in this picture you can see here the lines which were presented in red color, they denote the Himalayan mountains. Now the point here is these Himalayan mountains are started in Jammu and Kashmir and they are ended in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, if you want to read or if you want to understand these Himalayan mountains, we have to understand these Himalayan mountains in terms of longitudinal extent as well as in terms of latitudinal extent. Now, if you see the overall distribution of these Himalayan mountains from west towards the east, these Himalayan mountains would be covering a length of 2,400 kilometers, right, from west to east of India. And these Himalayan mountains were classified or were divided into different ranges. Now what we will be doing, we will be understanding these Himalayan mountains in terms of longitudinal extent and in terms of latitudinal extent, right. So in that, first we will be seeing the longitudinal division of these Himalayan mountains. Now in order to understand the longitudinal division of these Himalayan mountains, right. So if you see these Himalayan mountains, the Himalayan mountains which are presented to the westernmost side of India, right. So the part which was presented in this blue color, these Himalayas are called as Punjab Himalayas, right, or these Himalayas are also called as Kashmir Himalayas, right. And if you see the border for these Kashmir Himalayas, or else in other aspect, if you see the Himalayas which were present between Indus River and Satluj River, right. So that particular range of Himalayas were known as Punjab Himalayas or Kashmir Himalayas. Now to the east side of these Punjab Himalayas, we have another set of Himalayas, and this set of Himalayas were called as Kumaon Himalayas. Now if you see the boundary for these Kumaon Himalayas, these Himalayas are present between the Satluj River and Kali River, right. Now to the eastern side of these Kumaon Himalayas, we have another set of Himalayas called as Nepal Himalayas. Now these Nepal Himalayas are having Kali River and Teesta River as their borders, right. Now to the east side of this Nepal Himalayas, we have Assam Himalayas, and to the west side of Assam Himalayas, we have Teesta River, and to the east side of this Assam Himalayas, we have Dihang River, right. So this division or this extent of Himalayas is called as an longitudinal extent. Now the point to be noted in this particular concept is we need to remember the boundary rivers, right, the rivers which were acting as boundaries between these Himalayan rivers. Now, if you talk about Punjab, now tell me, Punjab Himalayas are bounded, or the boundary for the Punjab Himalayas would be Indus River in the west and Satluj River in the east. Now, for Kumaon Himalayas, Satluj River will be on the west side and Kali River would be on the eastern side. Now, the next set of Himalayas is Nepal Himalayas. For Nepal Himalayas, this Kali River would be on the western side and Teesta River would be on the eastern side. And another set of Himalayas is Assam Himalayas. For Assam Himalayas, Teesta River would be on the western side and to the eastern side we have Dihang River. Now, after Dihang River, what we will be having? These Himalayas would be taking a U-turn. Right? These Himalayas would be taking a U-turn in Arunachal Pradesh. So, after taking U-turn from Arunachal Pradesh, they enters into the other states that were present in northeast. Right? So, the Himalayas which are taking U-turn in Arunachal Pradesh, right? So, those Himalayas were called as an Purvanchal Hills. Purvanchal Hills or Purvanchal Mountains, right? So, the other name for this Purvanchal Hills or Purvanchal Mountains is Northeastern Mountains, right? So, this is regarding the longitudinal extent. Now, we will be seeing the latitudinal division. If you see the latitudinal division for or latitudinal division of Himalayas, we can divide these Himalayas into 3 parallel ranges. So, in that the first range would be the Greater Himalayas. So, if you see this Greater Himalayas, the average height of Greater Himalayas is 6,000 meters. And in Greater Himalayas, we would be having Mount Everest and Kanchenjunga. Right? Mount Everest and Kanchenjunga are the 2 mountain ranges or 2 mountains, peaks that were present in this Greater Himalayas. And this Greater Himalaya is also called as Himadri Himalayas. And what is the average height for these mountains? Average height is 6,000 meters. Now, to the southern side of these Greater Himalayas, we have another set of Himalayas. That set of Himalaya is called as an Lesser Himalayas, and these Lesser Himalayas are also called as Himachal Himalayas. And if you see the average height of this Himachal Himalayas, the average height of Himachal Himalayas is very less when compared to the average height of Himadri Himalayas. And if you see the average height of these particular Lesser Himalayas, the average height would be between 3,700 meters to 4,500 meters. So, this is the average height of Himachal Himalayas. And if you see the important things that were present in Himachal Himalayas, Shimla, Mussoorie and Nainital, all these 3 are important hill stations that were present in Himachal Himalayas. And to the southern side of these Himachal Himalayas, we have Shivaliks. And if you see the average height of these Shivaliks, the average height of this Shivaliks is very less when compared to the other 2 parallel ranges. And the average height would be from 900 to 1200 meters. And these Shivaliks are the most southern Himalayas that were present in these 3 parallel ranges. And in these Shivaliks, we will be having dunes. The famous example or the best example for the dunes which were present in Shivaliks is Dehradun, right? So, this is the latitudinal extent or the latitudinal division of latitudinal division of Himalayan mountains. Now, if you quickly recap or try to recollect, the first parallel range, the range or the first mountain range in the parallel ranges would be Himadri Himalayas. Second one, the second parallel range is Himachal Himalayas. The third parallel range is Shivaliks. And the average height of Himadri Himalayas would be how much? Some 600 meters, right? And the Himachal Himalayas, the average height would be 3,700 to 4,500 meters. And the average height of Shivaliks, it would be from 900 to 1200 meters, right? And the important places or the important mountains like Mount Everest and Kanchenjunga, these two are seen in Himadri Himalayas. And in Himachal Himalayas, the famous hill stations like Mussoorie, Shimla, right, Nainital, all these things are presented in Himachal Himalayas. Now in Shivaliks, which type of mountains or which type of places are seen? Dunes. Dunes are seen in Shivaliks, right? Shivaliks are famous for dunes, formation of dunes. And the important dune is Dehra Dune, right? Now, if you see these three parallel ranges and if you see these Himalayan mountains, not only these three parallel ranges, and to the northern side of these three parallel ranges, we are having other set of mountain ranges, right? So, the other set of mountain ranges which are present to the north of these parallel ranges, we call them as an trans Himalayas, right? So, even in this trans Himalayas, we are having certain division. Now, to the northernmost point, we have Karakoram ranges, right? So, these Karakoram ranges are the northeast, the northeast mountain ranges, the northeast Himalayas that we are having. And to the southern side of this Karakoram ranges, we are having Ladakh ranges. And to the southern side of Ladakh ranges, we are having Jaskar. And to the southern side of Jaskar, we have Kailash mountain ranges, right? So, all the four ranges above these three parallel ranges were called as trans Himalayas. Now, the point is how these Himalayan ranges were formed. What is the reason for formation of these Himalayan ranges? Now, if you see these Himalayan ranges, what is the reason? What is the reason or how these Himalayan ranges were formed? These Himalayan ranges were formed because of convergence. What is meant by convergence? Convergence is nothing but coming closer, right? Now, which continents came close to each other so that the formation of Himalayas were resulted, right? Now, if you see that particular thing, here the two plates, the first one is Indian plate and the second one is Eurasian plate, right? The Indian plate and Eurasian plate, they came closer to each other, they converged at a point, right? So, at that point of convergence or at the boundary of that particular convergence, we can identify or we can see there would be certain physical features that would be forming, right? Now, in case of these convergence, we have Himalayan mountains as a end product, right? Now, the point here is Himalayan mountains are formed because of convergence of two plates, two continental plates. Now, the important point here is whenever there is a convergence of two continental plates, if mountains are forming because of that particular convergence, and the mountains that were formed because of that particular convergence, we call them as fold mountains, right? So, now we can tell that Himalayan mountains are the examples of, is the example of a fold mountain, right? Now, this Himalayan mountain is the youngest fold mountains that were formed in a recent time. Now, what about block mountain? Block mountain is formed because of the divergence of two continental plates, right? Divergence of two plates. Since these fold mountains, or since these Himalayas were formed because of the convergence, we call that Himalayan mountains as fold mountains. And if you see the structure, or if you see the arrangement of these Himalayas are asymmetrical. That means the slope towards the Indian side is very, very even when compared to the slope of Himalayas to the Tibetan side. Right. So, they are not symmetrically formed, they are formed asymmetrically. Now, if you see the entire thing which we have discussed so far, it was given in this particular paragraphs, right? And if you see here, we understood that the mountain ranges which were taken U-turn in Arunachal Pradesh and entered the northeastern states. So, that particular set of mountains we are calling it as an Purvanchal hills. Right. So, again in these Purvanchal hills you can see Patkai hills and Naga hills and Manipur hills and Mizo hills. So, these are the examples of, or these are the ranges of these Purvanchal Himalayas, right. So, if you see this Naga hills, in Nagaland these Purvanchal hills were called as Naga hills, and in Manipur we call these Purvanchal hills as Manipur hills, and in Mizoram we call these Purvanchal hills as Mizo hills, right. So, that is regarding these mountains ranges that were present to the northernmost direction of India, right. We are calling these mountain ranges as Himalayan mountains. Now, in next video we will be continuing these particular physical features. In next video we will be seeing the northern plains and peninsular plateau. Now, the point here is we need to understand that these physical features were formed because of certain geological processes. So, if you see these geological processes, what are the different geological processes that happen? The first one is convergence of plates. Convergence of plates. So, because of convergence of plates, we have seen Himalayan mountain formations. Now, because of this Gondwana drift, or so because of the drifting of this Gondwana land, right, we can see it resulted for the convergence of the two plates, that is Indian plate as well as Eurasian plate. We understood that Himalayan mountains were formed because of these two geological processes. Now, what about the peninsular plateaus and the coastal plains that we are having? Those things were formed because of the faulting, right, and volcanic activity and depositional activity that happened in those particular period, right. So, because of these geological process, because of the combination of these geological process, we understood that these different types of features were formed, right. So, thank you so much for watching this video. In next video we will be analyzing, or we will be discussing the remaining physical features that were formed in India.